This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, this is Paul Huffman. I'm the Census and Redistricting Coordinator for the League of Women Voters in Minnesota. I'm here with the Tuesday timely topic for May 5th. Today we're going to I'll give a real brief update on the census, and then talk a little bit about elections and COVID-19, progress of a bill making its way through the Minnesota House and Senate. And then we'll talk a little more on redistricting and focus on the people, who draws the maps, who draw the maps. So with that, we'll get to it and get drilled through this information. The first thing, 2020 census, you can see here our self-response rate is 67.2%. It's up about 2.5% in the last week. As a state, we still are leading the country in Minnesota and doing real well on our way to hitting our goal of beating our performance from the 2010 census. Around the state, continue to get better with this. What you can see is that that there's less brown in the northern part of the state, more blue, which is great. Overall, the leading counties continue to be the four suburban counties are in the metro: Carver, Washington, Anoka, and Scott. The order varies from week to week, but those are the four counties that have been leading the way. Areas of focus on continue to be there in the northern, more rural parts of the state. Cook County at 18.1%. That's up about 3% in the last week, so that's a good improvement there. And then Monoman and Lake of the Woods and Cass. I would say about Monoma, that's part of the White Earth Reservation. I had an opportunity to talk to somebody in the last week, and they pointed out that reservations, native lands around the country are lagging significantly in response. Monoma's actually doing better than the norm for Native American areas, but still opportunity to do better and help there. And as I mentioned, our self-response rate for 2010 was 74.1%. I think last week I mentioned 80%. The 80% was based on our final self-response. 74.1 led the country at that point with the initial self-response. We want to get better than that, because the more we can self-respond, the less work there is for the Census Bureau to do once they get into the field here beginning of June. Some things you can do for the census. We talked last week about phone banking. That was rolled out last week. It's up and running this week. The State Demographic Center has this phone bank set up. They're called Registered Voters in Minnesota, to encourage people to respond to the census. It's only a couple of questions and focused on have you received the invitation to respond, and have you responded to the census? Given these are registered voters, a lot of them have responded to the census, but there are people, and I know I just spent some time doing calls, and we found people that had not, or maybe hadn't even heard about the census. So this was productive in helping get that awareness up. Some people have questions, and it's an opportunity to help them with answers to those questions or understand how to respond. So I encourage you to reach out to me at phuffman@lwvmn.org if you're interested. If you want to participate, there are some times set up for people to participate in the phone banking, pre-established times on weekday afternoons and evenings. Or if you and your local league, or you have a group of friends or acquaintances would like to do this, let me know. We can set that up. If you want to focus on a specific geographic area, that's something we can also do. So thanks for your support on that. Last week I talked about progress on elections and COVID-19. I'm happy to tell you that House File 3429 for Safe and Secure 2020 elections did pass the Minnesota House this week. Now needs Senate approval. There were some no votes on this in the House, so indicates probably some work to do to make sure we get the Senate approval. This was a bipartisan compromise to put the safety of voters and election workers, as well as integrity of elections, first. So this is a bipartisan bill. It doesn't give anybody everything they wanted, but it does give us what we need in order to have safe, secure elections this fall. It does authorize the HAVA election security funding. Overall, over $17 million is going to go to local election officials to help them with election resources, staffing, physical changes, cleaning supplies for this fall's elections. Extends polling place identification of July 1st. Usually it's done in December. This is needed because A number of places may not want to have large numbers of people coming through their facility, and that may be increasing the potential for infections. It allows training healthcare facility employees to administer absentee voting, and that's something to prevent or minimize the number of people going into those facilities who may be potentially carrying COVID-19 or who may be exposed to something in those facilities. So this maximizes the opportunity for people to vote, no matter what their health situation is. And then finally, the time for processing absentee ballots has been extended from 7 to 14 days prior to elections to from 1 day to 3 days after elections. And it's expected there could be as much as a doubling in the number of absentee ballots in the 2020 presidential election compared to the 2016 election. So this will require some additional time as well as additional resources, which goes back to the funding that those local election officials need. So it's moving on to redistricting, and that's something we want to keep in front of us, the People Power Fair Maps campaign. We talked a few weeks ago about the elements of redistricting, the people who draw the maps, the principles, what are the rules or criteria, and the process, how are the maps drawn, what meetings are held, and all that. So we talked about the process, and so what we do is go back and talk about the people. Who draws the maps? Who or should they be? Who could they be? And what I've got here is a little list of, well, who does that? Well, in Minnesota, the legislature draws the maps, and the governor can approve or veto. And what you see around the country is that's how most states do it. The legislature draws maps, the governor approves. Now there's some variations where maybe the governor draws the legislative maps and then the legislature approves, or the legislature approves the congressional maps, the governor approves. But by and large, that's how it's done by most states. There are 7 states that have commissions of some variety, draw the maps and approve them. There's sometimes a legislative review, sometimes a court review, but by and large, in those 7 states, the commission draws and approves the maps with very little political influence. In 7 states, there's legislature or legislative or political commission drawing them, and the legislature approves. Now that's something where, depending on the authority of that commission and what the authority of the legislature is, there can be significant legislative influence, if you will. In those examples, you can have there are 2 states where the legislature draws and the legislature approves. The governor has no opportunity to veto. So there's 3 others, which we won't get into. So going back, if you have politicians and, drawing and approving the maps, and as one political consultant said a number of years ago, redistricting is great. It's the only time where the politician gets to choose the voters instead of the voters choosing the politicians. So it does create a conflict for the elected representatives to decide what their districts are. If there's a political commission, even if it's balanced, the problem can be that those elected representatives can, basically do a little horse trading and ensure there's safe districts all around. There may be a small number of competitive districts. And that's what you see in some states with those political commissions, Washington State being an example of that. So the best case, we believe, is in those, but, going back is, things that happen is, if you have, the legislature and the governor who draw and approve or veto the maps, if they're all of different parties, if they're split, what you likely get is legislature draws a map, the governor vetoes, or the legislature can't approve on the maps, and then you never get anything to the governor. And so then you have the courts drawing the maps. And then the other thing that happened is the legislature and the governor are all the same party, or the legislature draws and approves. Now what you have is the opportunity for political manipulation of the maps. And even if it doesn't cross the line from a gerrymandering from a racial or ethnic standpoint, it can result in, and frequently does result in, maps that are unfair to some segment of the voting population. So, and that's not desirable. So that's why we feel in the League of Women Voters that the political process of the legislature drawing maps, governor approving, doesn't work. And it doesn't work in Minnesota because ever since 1960, there has not been a set of congressional and legislative maps that have not required legal court intervention. So if you look at redistricting commissions, what I call it is lots of flavors of redistricting. There's independent commissions that are appointed multi or nonpartisan commissions. There's advisory commissions, there's political appointee commissions, legislative commissions, and so on. Lots of flavors of commissions, lots of pros and cons that can influence the outcome. In some states, what we've seen is that some of these commissions are what's called unbalanced, where they don't have an equal number of the major parties that are represented in the legislature. That gets you in the same situation as you have when you have the legislature itself doing it. You now have one party can dominate the other and draw maps that have a partisan slant or another slant from a representative standpoint. Advisory commissions sometimes don't have much authority. I will tell you that in Iowa, the advisory commission has a lot of authority. In Maine, not so much authority. Political commissions can be advisory in nature as well. So the amount of authority and latitude and independence those commissions have are very significantly. You look at political commission as in Arkansas, that's composed of elected representatives. So, that's going to be very reflective of the intent and desire of the legislature. So what we want to do is make sure you understand there's a lot of ways that the people can be selected. We believe that the best option for Minnesota, the best option for redistricting is the independent commission. Generally, those are made up of some collection of major party, elected party representatives and nonpartisan representatives. In the view that, well, everybody's got an opinion, and certainly everybody has an opinion, they have a belief system, but they may not favor one party over the other, and they bring really diverse points of view to the process. So it's very beneficial to have those diverse sets of ideas. So that's what I wanted to cover this week. And, I want to leave with, if you have questions about the census, about election legislation, or about redistricting, please send me an email at phuffman@lwvmn.org. Or we want to make sure that we are offering to you and everybody the opportunity for presentations on the census or on redistricting, people power fair maps. As we get into the end of the legislative session, redistricting is going to be a topic we're looking to have discussed. And as we get into the summer with the extension of the census and extension of redistricting in 2021, there's going to be more opportunity for engagement with the public and engagement with the legislature on redistricting. So please reach out to me if you have any questions or interest on that. We have gotten pretty good at doing the online presentation and meetings for groups. We want to reach out to you, and no group is too small to have this kind of discussion. So I appreciate your time and attention and look forward to hearing you again, and until we see each other again, please stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.